Hi everyone, good evening. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you giving us an evening, and we are more than happy to provide a meal for you guys to go ahead and enjoy. We love breaking bread with our stakeholders, so really enjoy for you guys to come and join us this evening. So I think we'll get started. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. There's a couple of people that did RSVP that are not here yet, but I think they'll, make it in with the time. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Mercedes Rodriguez. I'm the Executive Director for the Taos County Economic Development Corporation, TCEDC, as most of you will know it. And we are here in a listening session for the Mobile Matanza, or the Matanza program for TCEDC, which entails the meat processing facility and the mobile slaughter facility and the services surrounding that whole project. I want to give you some little house rules, I guess, or let's not call them house rules, I don't like those words. Some indication to our facility. So where the restrooms are, down the hallway to your right, there's water down the hallway, there is food. For those of you who haven't grabbed Frito pie, we have great Frito pies for one of our local restaurants. And we are recording this so that we can make sure that those that are not able to attend have something to reference and some questions and, just what the whole listening session is in regards to. So when you do have a question, we're going to have two of our team members coming around to bring you a microphone so that we can make sure and hear the questions and can respond to the questions for you guys. And so we've got a couple of things going on tonight. We've got a little survey going on. Here in our table is the little sheet. We are going to offer a financial training, and we're scheduling. So they are still looking for a date and a time to come out and do it. And so we want to make sure that we take input from all our stakeholders to make sure that they are going to be here in a time when people can make it, and that they get great attendance from that. So if you guys, can take a time and fill that out, we'd really appreciate it. We also have a petition, I think, is it out on the floor?
Mayor.
So we've got a petition, basically. We are going to fill you guys in on some of the next phases and the next steps for the meat processing facility and where we are at. We want to get you guys' input so that we can start applying for the financial portion of our phase 2 and our phase 3 of the project. And so towards the end of the meeting, I'll go ahead and talk about the petition a little bit more and what that entails and where we're wanting to send that to. But, I want to give a great round of applause to the TCEDC team. Without them, of them here today, so I'll introduce them, but it's not all of them. We are proud to say that TCEDC now has 11 team members. So we have been able to provide employment with a competitive wage for 11 people within our community. So we're very proud of that. But some of the people that are here today are Joella Mondragon, which is the assistant. We have Lucas Salazar, which is the project manager for the Matanza program. We have Abby, which is our outreach coordinator. We have Gabby, which is our other outreach coordinator. We have Patty, which is our communications girl. It's going with microphones, recording, getting all of the information out to you guys to and from. So this is a two-way street. We want to listen to you. This is a listening session, so we want to hear all your comments. And she's the one that makes that communication go back and forth. And then we have Michaela, our grant writer. So keep us in line and say, Mercedes, we need more funds. Where are we going to get them from? She is hardworking and has been able to bring us to our next steps. Help us get 11 team members here, so thank you very much for that. We also have some of our TCEDC board members in the house tonight, so I'd like to introduce them. We've got Juan Valdez, which is our board. And I thought we had Pascual, our board chair, here.
He was here a minute ago.
Okay, so we have Pascual Maestas here in the capacity of TCEDC board chair. Okay, so if you guys have house issues or anything to do with house? That's another time, okay? He's TCEDC board chair tonight. And so most of tonight is going to be dedicated to Lucas. This is the first time that Lucas Salazar, the project manager for the meat processing facility, is going to be addressing all of our ranching community and the process of the actual facility build out and the project, which is the Matanza program. So most of the time is going to be dedicated to him. I will go ahead and talk briefly about where we're at with funding, what the projects that TCEDC has going on aside from the meat processing facility. And then I'm going to give Abby an opportunity to talk about one of our other programs. So TCEDC, again, has various programs in mind. There is a flyer out here that kind of depicts what TCEDC is all about and the programs that we have to offer. So we're part of education, we have the Tao Kitchen, we have a resource center, we have a mentorship program, and obviously the TCEDC Matanza. So the education part for our farming and our ranching community, soil health, making sure that we have what it takes to be able to inform and educate people of how crucial soil health is, water and no water, sin agua, agua es vida, is what is said, so we need to respect that. I want to recognize some of our partners that are here tonight as well. We've got a cooperation, a coalition formed, De la Tierra a la Cosecha. De la Tierra a la Cosecha basically is a collaboration of various partners within our community that have come to the table to share resources, to stop the duplicating of efforts, and to really bring the needs of several community projects to the table so that we can address the needs jointly. There is no need for us to really hustle and bustle and compete for funds. We do it jointly. So one of our members is here, Jillian Joyce with Agricultura de Taos. Thank you, for everything that she does. That is recognized, within our community. Without, our strong partners within the community, TCEDC is no one as well. We're here to build from each other. We're here to build each other up and really grow together. And I think that with the partnership under De la Tierra a la Cosecha, that is what we've been able to do. So more kudos to De la Tierra a la Cosecha. I think that we're at the next level, and 2025 is going to be our year. I think this is the year to really excel in what De la Tierra a la Cosecha is, TCEDC being one of the partners within that. I want to acknowledge, I see him taking, a spoonful of food, so I'll let him finish, but we have two representatives from Taos County as well. So we have Christopher Madrid, and he's like, don't call on me. And Brent Jaramillo. I thank you both, for really making it here tonight. One of the things that we like to talk about all over the state really is the private and public partnership that, is developed through this project as well. It's not only TCEDC, and it's not only the TCEDC team or projects or partners, it is those governmental entities that come to the table to make us, thrive as well. Within some clauses of the state, that those private-public partnerships are what makes us excel. So I'd like to thank the participation of both Taos County and the town of Taos. One of the projects and programs under this sheet is the mentorship program. So that mentorship program is connecting beginning and experienced ranchers around regenerative ranching principles. And so that is a project that we were fortunate enough to receive funding under the USDA Beginner Farmer and Ranchers Program. And Abby, has been successful at really bringing to the table 10 mentors and 10 mentees for the year of 2025, and we've got one more year in which we're going to be looking for 10 additional mentors and 10 additional mentees. So I want to give her the opportunity to speak about that. I want to again thank you guys for the time that you guys are dedicating here tonight. We want to make sure that we are here for Q&A. So any questions that you might have, there's definitely the team members that can address those for you. And we will continue with the good work. Thank you guys for all your support for coming here, and I'll hand it off to Ab.
round of applause for Mercedes and our work over other projects that TCEDC engages in. So yeah, like Mercedes said, the mentorship program is to inspire more ranchers to start ranching in general, but also using regenerative techniques. And so there are 10 mentees and 10 mentors each year, and if the mentors like it this year, they can be repeat mentors next year, which would be awesome, but we would also love to have new mentors apply if interested, and definitely need 10 new mentees. And so the USDA defines a beginning farmer or rancher as someone who's been doing it for less than 10 years, so doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter if you've been farming or ranching for 9 years, you're still considered a beginning rancher. So that means you can get paid to connect with a mentor who's been ranching for 10 plus years, and work with them over a 40-hour period. That's the whole extent of the mentorship program. It runs from March to August, 40 hours total, so there's 30 hours on ranch with your mentor, learning their different techniques that they're using, regenerative and otherwise. And then there's 10 hours of classroom time, which will consist of the orientation day and 3 workshops in between that are closed to just the participants of the mentorship, and so kind of catered into a more like intimate educational experience where people can really engage with the presenters of the workshops and make it a little bit more personalized. And then we have a graduation ceremony where people will present projects about their time in the mentorship program. And we have a few mentees and mentors here tonight, so thanks for showing up, guys. Yeah, if anyone is interested in applying for the program next year, you can come up to me or Gabby, who is our newest member of the outreach team, and we can put your name on a list to reach out to you next year, and we'll probably throw you on the newsletter as well if you're not already on there. Thanks, everyone.
So without further ado and not delaying anything, I'd like to introduce Lucas Salazar, which is going to present the project, explain the specifics of the project, the delays, the triumphs. Let's not talk about issues, let's talk about actual triumphs and where we've gotten thus far. So thank you, Lucas, for giving us tonight.
Absolutely, thank you, Mercedes. And thank all of you for coming to this update. And I know for some of you who've been following this for a while, I probably feel like a bit of a ghost in the project, because like you keep hearing my name, but this guy's never showing up at any of these listening sessions. I don't know if he's real. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little introduction, just because I think probably a lot of things have been said, and I don't know, I just want to make the record straight on who I am, where I come from. And then the bulk of my talk, and I don't want to make it too long because it frankly is pretty dry as far as, I'm just going to let you know what's happened since spring of about 2 years ago when an important meeting took place with the Matanza. I'm going to kind of run you through the main strokes of the history, the Matanza, and then I want to let you guys know about how we're thinking about the business plan of it. So this is especially for you ranchers. What opportunities might you have with this project? I'm sure you're very interested to hear that piece. So on to me, who I am. I'm a 6th generation from a ranching farming family out of Manassas, Colorado. The Conejos and the San Antonio rivers that feed the Rio Grande there off Highway 152 is the San Antonio River, is what feeds the riparian area that my family's cattle graze on. And I went out to college. They probably thought I was the last one to ever come back to the farm. I studied sociology and education, and I went and taught in the cities for a few years. And after 4 years of teaching, I knew I didn't want to do that. And I was just back home, like, I don't know what I'm going to do next. And the family had always had this idea, like, we're raising all these cows. How can we make more money with these cows? How can we make more money with these cows? And the idea of a jerky business kind of floated around. And it just so happened that a local meat processor who primarily was doing, like, custom, like, really small, like, wild game more than anything else, he was trying to sell that little business, and my dad was kind of in a position where he could maybe kind of broker that deal, and that's kind of what happened. This beef jerky business, this guy trying to sell out his little mom and pop shop in that was the marriage that started. So that was in 2009. I began learning the meat processing business and the USDA regulations, etc. And then in 2010, we moved all of that equipment from that little shop onto our farm, and we were a USDA inspected facility at that point. However, not with slaughter, so we were relying on mells. A lot of people here probably know Mel's from Romeo, Colorado. We would have to take animals to him, and he would slaughter them, and then we could pick them up from him and take them and further process them in our facility. And it took till 2014 when we built our own slaughter facility, and then we were really vertically integrated on certain things we did. We were raising the animals on the farm. I mean, I had the pigs. Sometimes it's close as basically in pens almost right near the processing facility, and marched them in and would slaughter them right there. Put them into different kind of value-added products. Like for the pigs, we really did a lot of work on the pigs to where we were making this tassel ham, Acacia-style ham, which was a really popular product, bacon, different variety of sausages, all the cuts you could think of coming from a hog. And primarily we were selling them here in Taos at the farmer's market in smaller portions, and then in larger portions we would sell direct to consumers, like either like a half pig or a whole pig bundle. And we were doing beef at this time too. And then I basically had a 10-year run. So I had about a 15-year run in that business of Salazar Meats, and then in December 2024, so just Christmas now is when I closed it. It did break my heart a little bit to close it, I'm not gonna lie. I tried really, really hard to broker the lease, but the lease fell through. We thought the lease, we had it all lined up, a lot of legal costs were spent. It was unfortunate, but you know, I have 2 young children here in Taos, and that's primarily my heart piece of that it was like at some point this has to close. And as you know, by then this Matanza project had been going for a long time. I've had my eyes on the Matanza project since its inception. I mean, I was there in Colorado trying to call into the TCEDC to get slaughter services. That's my initial interaction with this project. But then as the years went by and I was transitioning my personal life more to Taos, I was getting more conversations with Mercedes about, hey, maybe I could come on here and help this project in some way. And here we are. So that's me, and that's kind of my background as relates to the meat processing scene. So now, the history of the Matanza. And again, I hope this doesn't take too long here, but I think there are some important details. So in March of 2023, so that's already 2 years ago, right? That's when a really important meeting was happening with TCEDC. A facility build was the main contractor involved, Beta Engineering, and sat down to create basically they call it the scoping meeting. So who's going to be responsible for what? And a Beta Engineering topographic survey, and they did a great job. Check. Grading and drainage plan. Great job. Check. Foundation design. Check. Roadway and parking lot design. Check. And then there's its own category on its own for utility design with subpoints. And so then there's water line, main, and service. And we didn't quite get a check on that. Sewer septic and interceptor, septic and leach field. Didn't quite get a check on that. Lighting, electrical layout. Some basic drawings were done, but they were by no means ready they were by no means in a finished state. But some work got done on that. And then in November, so about 6 months later, the 2 Fiesta units are placed. And I don't know if has anyone here not seen those units? Has anyone not seen those units? Yeah, to you guys? So if you're ever driving Highway 64 and you know where Taos Mesa Brewery is on the one side and the county office are on the other side, it's right by the county office. If you just really take a concentrated look at the county office, you'll see these 2 pearly, new-looking boxcars, and that's $1.4-ish million on the ground right there. Okay, that's the stem wall construction and design, and some road work, and then the 2 units themselves, which is a hanging cooler that can hold 50 beef at a time, and then a cut and wrap facility that could handle that sort of a volume. Then really we have a whole year kind of go by. So you go from November 2023 to November 2024. And some stuff got done. Civil engineering, we have some beautiful drawings of floor plans. Some design got done around the loading docks, the freezer we're going to put there, and then that'll be where the loading docks are. So like even like a semi or something could back up. and have that recession, so it could even, it's designed to, this freezer is actually designed for a forklift to be able to go into the freezer and fork out pallets, and then to be able to load them onto semis. That's been done. We have that in a good engineered state. The details for storage, laundry, the offices, the restrooms, and all that is basically sitting in the office of Malloy Mobile Storage in Albuquerque, ready to pull the trigger. We just have to know what's for sure going to happen with the water before they can finalize their designs. Electrical and plumbing is kind of the same thing. We got to know exactly where this wastewater system is going to go before we can finalize that. And then, to me, what is one of the biggest and most important parts of this project, which Mercedes knows, I would get real, like I'd get a twitch or something every time the idea came up, like, this is just going to be run with a mobile slaughter unit. Because if anyone wants some time, outside of this meeting, I'm happy to sit down with you and show you how bad the economics are of a mobile slaughter unit. They're atrocious. And that was the biggest thing, I think the biggest contribution I've made to any design or idea on this whole project so far is getting away. And I'm not saying that we're going to end it or we should end the mobile slaughter, but I think it's a supplemental piece to a bigger project that has a stationary slaughter floor that's designed in a really efficient manner. And to understand just the basics of it, when you're having to just kill one animal at a time and process through this whole skinny system and put one in the cooler at a time and then kind of start again, you're not getting any kind of efficiency with that. It's hard to imagine that the mobile unit, the mobile unit has a capacity of roughly 10, and that's about as much as you're going to get into that in a day with a team of 3 people, just because of the cumbersome nature of the way you're doing the work. So in the new design for the stationary, what we did is we are hoping to have a double. We actually have the design. See if we can get the thing. But it's a double wide, so now all of a sudden we can have bays, so we'll have 4 animals down at a time. And it's literally going to run something like 5 times as fast as the single file line would run. So that's I think where this needs to go if we're going to try to make it efficient and try to get our local meat into our local grocery stores or our local institutions at a decent price. If we still have a really cumbersome, inefficient system, we're going to have this meat that ends up being really expensive and it's not even going to be competitive on the shelves. And so we have to think about efficiencies. Yeah, I'll skip that piece. So I finally was able to, I sold the business at Christmas. I kind of put it in autopilot a little bit. I did have good help there at the end of the year. So in November is when I came on full time. And that's when I was able to sit down. I've been consulting, just 1099 kind of consulting with the TCEDC, trying to help wherever I could with all this civil engineering and so forth that was taking place. But when I really sat down and was able to do this whole history, it just literally, I just wanted to a little bit pull my hair out of my head on the wastewater piece, because everything else depends on the wastewater when we have this. It's very unique. And there's not a lot, part of the problem is that there's not a lot of engineers who have even touched this type of problem. I reached out to something like a dozen engineering firms, and most of them didn't show interest, didn't show experience in this type of problem, and maybe like 3 or 4 did, and I only got 2 that were willing to get to the point of giving us a proposal on that wastewater work. And so that was started in November. By January, we finally had the firm contracted. And then things happened really quick, and all of a sudden we had all these enlightening moments that were like, well, hey, we needed to know that first. So if we want to say, like, what's the biggest problem, what's the biggest holdup so far on this Matanza project, it's been the wastewater. And so to explain a little bit about the design and why it's so tricky is this advanced wastewater system, to be able to digest the amount of blood that's going to be going through this. It requires several holding tanks. The first draft had it at 12,500 gallons of holding tanks, which was 2 5,000 gallons and a 2,500 gallon holding tank, which then go into an advanced system which has certain components that are really helping back the beneficial bacteria to grow really quickly, and then aeration. So there's oxygen always being pumped into these things. And then it goes out to a leach field finally after that. And the leach field is massive for this scale. It took about a 1/4 acre on its own. And what we're looking at working with here is about a 2.5 acre plot. So the first drawing that the engineer gave me was it took up the whole of the right, kind of the east wing of the property, which is, hey man, that's where the animals are gonna come in. We can't do it there. And so with this massive, it's 10,000-ish square feet, we're where is this thing gonna fit? And so now all of a sudden we're in this well, this should have been the first thing we talked about. So then when the other civil engineers did all these floor plans and stuff, we would know where the darn thing could go. So that kind of gives you all the, if anyone's curious for more details, we could share more details with you. But the wastewater has been kind of the issue. So where we're at right now, and the thing that's holding us back at the moment is we do have a draft of the permit for the wastewater system, but we're waiting to get the official survey done of that piece of land. That was something that, that kind of I think got lost a little bit on the desk maybe or something in the early phase, or just needed more time to develop. So we're hoping to get that resolved quickly, and then they'll have the permit, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna phase the permit. So I just explained this massive leach field, which needs to be there if we're gonna have a stationary slaughter there. But we could run in the short term using the mobile Matanza if we just install one of these holding tanks, or multiple holding tanks, and then just pump them out for now and have them treated in the town. So we have a pathway to get operating quickly. It's cumbersome, and it's a little expensive as far as having to regularly have this thing pumped, but it's a lot less cost than once we get to actually installing the full advanced wastewater system. So then real quickly, I'm going to just explain the business model, and then we'll be open for all the questions you got. So there's basically two income, from our perspective, is we're running this and we're trying to run this as a business. We have two income streams that we're thinking about. And the first income stream is processing for the rancher who has their market figured out, or they're developing that market, and they want us to process for them, put their farm name, whatever they want on the label. We can work together with you for claims if people are trying to be, grass-fed, grass-finished claims, no antibiotics, no hormones, all this kind of stuff takes paperwork that we file in the office in order to be able to do those kinds of claims. But we plan on making that part of the service to work with you to get the claims you want on your label and the label that you like, and we will put everything through as we'll say a single ingredient, at least at this point. We're not talking about value adding just yet. That would be a few years down the road if we get there. But for now, so that means if it's a cow, for instance, that means ground beef and all those cuts off the cow is what they call single ingredient. We're not going to be making sausages or jerky or anything. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is process for people who then are going to take on the responsibility of marketing the animal after that. The second thing we want to do for those ranchers who don't want to deal with that, because I know as doing that, as raising a herd of 150 pigs, and an example of the pigs that I did, I was raising these animals, I was slaughtering these animals, I was having me and my team figure out where all these were going to be sold, and we took on a lot of the delivery responsibilities, and people weren't able to come to the shop to pick them up. It is very heavy on logistics if you're going to have your own direct meat marketing business that you're running yourself. So we know not everybody's going to want to do that. So the idea of kind of like a buyer barn. So you're going to sell to us as the TCEDC, and at least where it's at right now, the design is to, because it's very efficient to get an animal into ground beef. It is not very efficient to get an animal into all those, a beef. My little coding on our deli scale for beef has like 60 codes. A beef is a very complex critter that can be turned into a lot of different things. And so if we change that into ground beef and tenderloin, which I'm really confident that all the animals coming through this region are going to have a good quality for ground beef and tenderloin. They won't necessarily have a good quality for ribeye. They won't necessarily have a good quality for New York. They won't necessarily even have a good quality for like a succulent chuck roast even. This is typical of grass-fed operations in this region. So I'm trying to create a model that fits the quality of the animals that are coming out of here. And I know there might be pushback. The quality question is a big, sensitive question, and there are people in harsh regions like ours who are figuring out how to get animals marbled on grass. But it's very rare. I feel like it's expensive. There's a lot of reasons why it's kind of not trending in that direction really, really quickly. But there are some people who are doing it through genetics and creative feeding, etc. But again, you would have every right to bring your animal to us, have us process it for you, and then you can create your own market and do what you want with it. But I'm just feeling at least to start, and maybe that could be an education arm of what we do or we think about in the future, is helping to improve quality. And when we say quality like this, we mean quality in terms of the USDA grading system of select, choice, and prime, which you really don't get decent steaks. This would be argued too. Baby prime, some people select is all right. Like, okay, I'll eat that. But at the same time, you know, if you take the USDA equation out and you talk about heritage around here and quality, I mean, I was raised on tough-ass steaks, I'm not going to lie, and that's because my family raised grass-fed beef. We would kill it, we would eat the animals we raised, and I didn't know. It's like I wasn't like a teenager until I had like a choice steak at a restaurant one day or something. I was like, oh my God, that's a revelation. But it's a thing, right? It's like it's a thing. It's hard to charge. Let me put it this way: it's hard to charge the $20 a pound for the ribeye. That's just a really tough eating experience versus the $20 ribeye that, you know, the folks I know who are actually pulling this off on grass, they're getting Wagyu genetics in there. That's what's happening a lot. Is there's a lot of crossbreeding with Wagyu and Angus. They're calling it Wangus. You might see this in some restaurants. I think at like Seiko, a Sec and Seiko, I think is selling Wangus that they're getting. It's kind of locally. It's kind of the border of New Mexico and Texas where they're getting their Wangus. So it happens and it can happen. But again, I'm trying to do something with this that is going to be what's here already. What utilizes the strengths and the qualities, however you think about that we actually have inherent here in this region. And so now on this business, when we buy, what I'm proposing, so when we process for you, we're trying to be with the market or beat the market. So if you come and bring your animal to us, we'll probably be the cheapest bet in the region for you to bring your animal to. That's kind of what we're aiming for. And then when we buy, we're trying to outperform the sale barn, so that you'll want to bring it to us. The idea is that we'll do an analysis of what the market's doing at that time. We'll take 10 cents above that, and then the way I see it is you're going to save the 5 cents for the fees at the sale barn, so you're 15 cents ahead, but you're also probably shipping less and you're saving your time. And so that's quite a few reasons to keep it local, keep it with us. We'll put it in there. We'll get it processed really quickly. Ground beef, tenderloin. It's in our institutions, it's in our grocery stores, it's in our restaurants, right here. So that's the basic model, that's the basic idea, and hit us with questions, hit us. Yes, sir.
You've only mentioned beef so far. What about other?
Great question. The question is I've only mentioned beef so far, so what about the other species? So lamb. Okay. Thank you for that question. And we plan to serve all species. So it's called voluntary inspection. So there's amenable and non-amenable species. And the amenable are beef, pork, lamb, and goat. And so those are paid for by all of us. We pay for the inspection on that service as taxpayers. The government is just doing that for all those species. As soon as it gets into exotics, Then it's the idea that a private funding source has to pay for that inspection. It's called voluntary inspection. And so we plan to get equipped within all of our paperwork, our HACT system and everything to do all these, because we're planning on, the Pueblos is a big thing. And I think this is where the mobile Matanza is going to really shine, is helping the native populations with their bison herds. But it could also do yak. Those are like probably the two exotic species here that we'll be dealing with. But we will be open to that. Lambs, yes. Goats, yes. Pigs, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? Back here?
Again, no value added with the pork, or so just, I mean, you don't have to go super into it.
Yeah, no, we just gotta walk before we run. And getting this to run well and run efficiently and be sustainable. This is what I was really worried about, because this was a lot of the conversation in the beginning. Because there was a time where there was like some good money on the table for it. Maybe we could have just thrown a value-added cooler out there. But that is super complex. That's part of, I think, the reason why transitioning out of my business that sells our meats was so difficult, and why I ended up not being able to seal the deal on the lease with my own business, is because it was complicated as hell. We had something like 40 or 50 kind of different product offerings that included our wild game stuff going on, and to train someone that is an absolute nightmare. And so we have to walk before we run. I'm not saying no to that down the road, because once we develop this system and this product offering and we're really solid up on it, that to me is the time where we could or should maybe start entertaining that. But complexity, I think, in the beginning could kill us, and that's kind of why we're leaning a little away, at least for now. Is there?
How many employees are you guys hoping to start with?
The beginning's gonna be something like 6 to 8, and what that'll do is it'll allow us to butcher 2 days a week. I'm thinking it'll probably be like a Monday, Friday, and fill up the mobile Matanza all the way. So it'll be like 8 to 10 twice a week. So it'll be something like 16, 20 beef or equivalent. So if we think about a beef, you want to think about a pig is usually double. So if in 1 kill we could do 10 beef, we could do 20 pigs. And with the goats and the lambs, typical, it's more like a 3 or 4 multiplier. So we could theoretically do something like maybe 30, 35 goats or lambs. And that's where we'll be at to start. And that's like a 6 to 8 crew to handle that. And then as soon as that stationary piece gets down, then all of a sudden our volume can go way, way up.
Matt, can I have you?
Lawrence? We'll get right back to you. You're next. Let's hit Lawrence real quick.
Yeah, I just want to know, because you're saying you're considering buying from the ranchers themselves. Are you going to have, some people that are selling the meat that you're buying from the ranchers? Is that part of the plan?
That we're a seller?
Yeah. No, so like if you're buying a cow or some cows from a certain rancher, then you have to sell them, right? And you make the money, right? So are you going to have somebody on staff that's going to be doing that?
Yeah. So there's 2 documents that are in there. They're rough draft phase. There's the one that's the pricing document to do that custom processing for folks, and then the other document for that other income stream is I'm calling it right now the pastured ruminant standards. So if you're going to sell to us, because we are planning on making label claims, which I think at the very least we want pasture-based, we want no antibiotics, we want no hormones. That's the minimum. And I think that's where we start. If we get too aggressive beyond that, a lot of like auditing and so forth will be involved. Like if we wanted to call them like 100% grass-fed and grass-finished, for instance, then what would happen is all the growers who are trying to sell into us with that label claim, would have to get third-party audited and verified by someone like the American Grass-Fed Association. And we wouldn't want to put that burden on people. At least, again, I feel like this is another thing similar to the gentleman in the back, that it's complicated. It gets complicated, right? And it starts getting to be a lot of paperwork. Whereas virtually everybody around here who's raising cattle is doing it without hormones, is doing it without antibiotics, and is doing it on pasture. So again, it kind of plays to our strengths and our heritage for just how it's being done. So, but we can make it look really cool. I mean, it is really cool, right? It's not tainted with all this toxic stuff that as soon as we sell our animals out from here to the sale barn, virtually immediately, they are stuck with a bunch of crap that we don't want to see on our plate on the end. And so we circumvent all that with the system. If we can get them to, so this is an important point, if we can get them to a decent weight, because that's part of the standards is, it gotta kind of be a minimum weight. You don't get that cow, that steer, heifer up above about 1,000 pounds, then you're in another problem of efficiency. Just that their lean to bone ratios and all that don't get very good until they start getting a little bigger. And so that's what we have it written as of right now. Again, this is all in the draft phase. We've not signed anything to sign anything in stone yet on this. But I think 1,000 pounds is a reasonable requirement to get the animal to. And then all we need is an affidavit from the grower that says that you didn't do antibiotics, you didn't do hormones, and that the animal lived primarily its lifelong pasture. And I'm pretty sure that is going to go through the USDA as an affidavit. We won't have to deal with a bunch of third-party verification stuff. So, yes, Julie.
Are you just going to be USDA?
Thank you, Abby. Are you just going to be USDA, or are you also going to lean on state meat inspection and do custom? Like, will you have different days for?
Well, I think if we're doing USDA, to have any other inspection would be, it would be redundant. We wouldn't need it. Like the USDA is the most rigorous of the inspection, and actually state inspection is supposed to meet the same standard anyway. So, see, it's kind of like a moot point. But I think there are some exotic cases that we need to think about and look at. Like we were just at a meeting, Mark Flores, the town manager, right? So he raises his own cows, and he's got an interesting model where he's doing the slaughter part himself. And then he takes that in a really clean state and he takes it to a not-for-sale processor that then processes it down, and then he can do his direct sale as like a half side or maybe a full beef. Gray area there for what's legal. But that is an interesting question. And is that a little niche piece that we will get into? So far, I actually have it on the pricing scheme. I'm calling it farm kills. And I'm saying between 20 and 50 bucks. So if you farm kill your lamb and you bring it to us, that'll cost you 20 bucks for our administration and our messing with getting the animal in there. If it's a larger animal, 50 bucks, because you might have to quarter it, might have to dot it. I'd like to take some time with larger animals to get it in there. But again, it's not set in stone. It's not a huge deal. So as far as the USDA and their concern with that, if the label right, if they can't have the bug, obviously you can't. But so in your production flow, you're going to start your day doing the USDA, and then you're going to transition to not for sale. You're not going to do not for sale first ever, because then you have to do a total cleanup of everything. Your sanitation plan will have to start from the beginning. So there's that concern, and then it's really that in the hanging cooler that they're not touching, that they don't commingle. So maybe this niche piece of the pie is something that we do when we have space and we know that we can segregate it really well. But if we're really busy and it's like a really full cooler, we might have to say sorry, because it's just the USDA is going to throw a flag and that's going to sink us. Because the USDA will condemn things. They do condemn things. They do inspections, and if they find out that there's certain diseases in these animals, you are expected to very much prove that you went and put it in the dump. So I think that's kind of where that one stands. It's like, it might be like a when we can do it kind of thing. But yeah, again, we're not saying stone, folks, and any feedback on any of these questions now or later after, please just reach out to us, and we're happy to follow up on it. Yes, sir.
I just want to make sure I understood what you said. You're talking about 10 cows in your multi-line, is that right? 10,000 pound animals a day, is that what you were saying?
Then we're getting to, so the phasing. I think you're kind of getting at the phasing of the project. In the first phase, we're going to still be using the mobile Matanza, because that's what we have as our harvest apparatus. And that can do about 10 beef a day. That's what it can do.
And you said 3 to 4 times from lambs. I'm
Yes.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, so like 30, yeah. Labs are quite quick when you get good at a lamb or a goat. You can skin that thing off real fast.
So that would cover my whole year there if you're going to take 30 or 40 lambs away. And then how long can you hang them for? You know, I have customers that want long hang times.
Yeah, this one's a contentious one, right? Because the longer you hang that animal, the more you're holding up that process, that space that is what's income generating for the business. Yeah, so at my business, what we always did is we did 10 to 12 days on beef, and then on the lambs and the smalls we didn't do any aging requirements. We would usually process those within a week. But the large ones, 10 you know, the research shows that most of that tenderization, and I know like people have different thoughts on this, but that most of it happens in 7 days. But yeah, to get some real artisanal thing, you do probably want the 21 days. And again, I think that might kind of be based on where we're at with space. And if we're in a situation where we can accommodate it because we're not fully booked, that maybe we accommodate it. But if we're in a situation where people are just knocking on the door to get in, I think we put it at the 10 to 14 day, and so we can keep our space moving.
And then the other question is just, like, I get it that you've got a couple different phases of production, but how is these scheduled? How much lead time?
Well, I think the basic idea is first come, first serve, but I think that there's another caveat there, and I'd be happy if Mercedes chimed in on this one, but of regionality. But there's like, you know, like I don't think we should, even if we have an awesome client that's in Colorado, so I think there's gonna be a lot of Colorado people that want to use this plant. I was one of them when I was doing this. But this is in New Mexico. This is New Mexico state funds. That's primarily funding this, right? And this is for us. This is for our county, in our town. And so it seems like I don't know exactly how we put that into a policy and how we develop that out. But I do think, in addition to first come, first serve on the call, there's got to be something to say about the regionality because we're trying to serve as close as we can to this county.
First come, first serve, does that mean you've got a calendar and there's an opening, whoever signs up for that, it might be 6 months ahead of time, whoever comes first to write
Those
the
would be the smart growers, especially if you're looking for fall spots. You would get those a year in advance if the company will let you. Yeah. You have a question? Are you?
I have one here. Oh, I can keep on asking a couple.
She has one. Sure.
Yeah, he's next.
Okay. Yes, sir. In the green hat.
Yeah, I was wondering about Mr. aspect, when someone consider organic fed, organically fed animals, is that something that we can claim, or how does that work out?
That would be an audit.
Not
That's an audit. And then if we ever take on organic, that means that we have to do, it comes down to the cleaning process.
That comes down to how they feed the animal.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's both. Like, you're gonna have your ranch,
Right.
and the
I'm just curious.
the USDA does it, but then there's third-party auditors that you can get to do that. But what I'm trying to just clarify is that even if you get that done, if we haven't done the work on our side to have the processing piece done, organic, you won't be able to. You could show your client, hey, look, I'm organically certified, but we couldn't legally put that bug on your label unless we had it too. It takes two audits to get that bug onto the meat.
Yeah, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I think you answered this, but we're interested in how the processing or the scheduling is kind of a detailed process question that the different species are going to be handling.
They can all go in there.
Yeah.
There's in the US they can touch you. Like, they can actually like physically touch. It couldn't touch a not for sale carcass of whatever type.
Right.
But a pig can touch a cow. Yeah, they don't throw the flags for that.
What I had done, so I come from Oregon and I had 250 goats. And what I did was organic practices, because to certify my 80-acre ranch organic was impossible.
Yeah.
It would just, if I drive a tractor on a road that's not certified, I'd have to sterilize my tractor.
Yeah.
So I always just put on mine organic practices, and my clients knew that I was doing organic practices.
Yeah, totally. I think that's where most small growers are end up, because you go look at doing this, unless you have a massive herd, because it's gonna cost you several grand to even do it. So there goes your profit margin, et cetera. It's like, yeah, that's the kind of the beauty of doing the local direct, right? Is people actually know you. They might even like know your ranch and like they trust it because they're right here. And that's what we're developing here. We're developing this just really based on trust economy. So, but yeah, right here. Yes.
Yeah, so, do you have a policy on vax animals? On making sure, are they not allowed?
Vaccination.
Yeah, I mean, this is where, I mean, I can just, again, nothing's set in stone yet, and this is not one that's really come up. But, I mean, I'm gonna just go with what I think the basic vaccinations that cattle get, that pigs get, are very safe and good. That's just me personally. But, I mean, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. That one could be, I don't know, maybe a really slippery slope if we start trying to, like have unvaxxed. I think that's a pretty extreme position on animals, but that's just me.
But good for those of us that would prefer that type of meat.
Yeah, I think especially like being like, with that kind of thing, I feel like that's such like an exotic request, which could be fine. I think that would need to be worked out with probably a not-for-sale product, but directly with the grower of that animal, and probably with the not-for-sale processor is probably going to be the way to go in that kind of situation.
And are you gonna have a butcher shop on site?
Oh, but
So
just on-
yeah, so I could come and buy.
Oh,
my
like a
ground beef
deli-
there, or do I have to go to Citizen?
like the deli case and all that.
Yeah.
There's no plans for the retail end display of the meat there. I think what is going to happen is we might have something like a bulk, like a wholesale. Well, for someone who wants like a deal on a bulk, so we're going to be punching a lot of ground beef through this place, and it's going to be in either 40-pound boxes or bags, or 50-pound boxes or bags. And I think that's something that maybe we actually retain selling direct out of that. But again, we don't. I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, and a whole nother set of skills and staffing and everything. There's no plans for that now.
So,
Yes, sir.
I know all the logistics aren't in place, but like Abby's doing this mentorship program
Uh-huh.
with people here. Is there plans or thought about doing a mentorship program over there in the processing to teach people how to cut the meat?
I think that's a brilliant idea, sir. I think that's going to be one of the challenges, one of the biggest challenges. How many times in my history of hiring folks that, and they're, again, it's like kind of like at the heritage level, there's a lot of people here who have shot an elk or a deer or whatever wild game, and they've skinned it, like they know how to do it, but it's a whole nother level to do it super quickly, super efficiently, and like, professionally. And so yeah, the skills the skills to do like the start to finish animal handling, butchery, all that is a dying art. And so yeah, I think that's a big piece of this project. It's going to bring some of the skills back to understand how to deal with the project from the beginning to the end. Yes, back there.
I've been to some of these meetings before. There was some talk about bone broth and the bones and things. Are the bones involved too?
Great question. And to me, that question starts branching out into all the offal, right? The livers, hides, heads,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's one thing I was fortunate to have some time in the first month or two that I was in the position to really research the heck out of compost. And there are new technologies that it's not exactly compost, but it's like this biodigestion that can create a fertilizer out of, like, you can literally even grab like a whole cow and put it in this thing. It has this hammer mill that you know, mechanically just gets it down, and literally in 24 hours, you have a usable fertilizer on the other side. So it's Harp Industries, if anyone looks into it, or Green Star LLC in the United States. And these are this is crazy technology. Apparently up the Ski Valley they have one that's doing biodigestion for the institutional waste up there. Those are really expensive. I know the county waste management guy is looking at some grants that hopefully he can get something on the account. That's what we would hope. I mean, we'll be applying for grants for these things, I think, ourselves, but the county is looking at it too, and it would be great if that was there, and you know, we're all close out there near the dome, we just kind of set that stuff out in those lands, and we're getting a lot of usable byproduct out of this. Because again, it's the complexity thing. We've looked at a little bit of this stuff, but like, if you're trying to like get the hides and then create like a collagen production out of the hides and then a bone broth, like it's great in theory, and again, it's maybe something that we can move toward over time, but in the beginning to try to like all of a sudden like manage, and all these things take capital, you know, that's technical equipment and stuff to like extract the collagen, but that could be a very valuable piece down the road.
Isn't that where you could put some of the blood though, as well, as into the compost?
Yes, the compost is, what do they say in the rocket, they call it rocket fuel for compost. Yes. Absolutely.
So couldn't that assist some of your issues that you have with?
So this is a great question. So blood, why don't you just put all your blood? And I think it comes down to just like the practicality of how the process works. So now you got the cow, shoot it, it's bleeding a little bit at that point, but not a lot. But then you hoist it up, and then this is where a key piece comes, where you bleed the animal. So you get in there, you cut its main vein and its neck. And then you stick a big, like a 55-gallon type drum under that, and you catch. And you catch 85% of the blood right there. And now that's actually considered at that point a solid waste. But then there's going to be some 10 to 15% on down the line that is going to be just as the animal's moving through this facility, and it ends up in the drains, and then that's your effluent. And even at 10 or 15%, which doesn't seem like it'd be a lot, like because there's hundreds and hundreds of gallons being used in this process with all the cleaning and everything that's going on. The BOD, the biochemical oxygen demand of this effluent, is still so high that it requires like lagoons or advanced treatment or something to deal with. And that's been the big problem here is getting that system designed, which we have designed now. So.
But you're close to the dump as well.
Yeah.
I mean, is there some sort of coordination that could be taking place there of really creating a compostable product for this?
Yes, and the county has, and I don't know if someone in here would want to chime in that knows more, someone in here might know more than I do about the county and their composting efforts, but there are legit efforts and there is some composting going already. And so we might actually have a place to, it might be like that we can do certain things, right? Like, okay, so I see this composting kind of in three kind of categories. There's like the in-row composting, which takes a long time. Like you're gonna have that thing there for months, if not 6 months, if not a year, before you can have a usable product from that type of a system. And then there's these industrial style, rotary type composters now that work a lot more quickly, but they still, like one case that I studied who did this method, it worked really good for like her liver and the guts themselves work really good. The paunch of a beef works really good in those systems. But then when it came to trying to do the hides in that system, it kind of gummed them up and it didn't work very well. And this is despite the manufacturer completely claiming that that will digest hides. But I talked to the person who ran the system and they were like, the hides, they're like maybe like, but you'd have all this extra labor about like lacerating the hides in all these ways to get the hide to actually digest in that system. So that's like the mid-tier. So there's like, yeah, like in-row is like low kind of tech, and then you have this kind of mid-tech, which isn't that expensive relatively for these big rotary things. But then that highest level of tech is this biodigestion I'm telling you about, which is absolutely amazing, would be amazing if we could have, but they had it for our scale that we're trying to run. They quoted us, and maybe this doesn't sound like that much money, but each unit, when we needed two, was $330,000. So, you know, we're at $650,000, $700,000 to get the biodigestion we would need at our scale for our project. we got a lot of other costs still, folks. And like, we want it, but can we get it, you know? And maybe it will. I think these biodigestions are honestly the future of dealing with waste. And we might be at a good timing where all of the politics and everything line up to get us the biodigestion. It very well could be. Any other questions?
I got a sort of comment over here, Jillian. So responding to what you said about organic certification, organic certification is a pretty big pain in the keister, and I don't think always worth it. But I think one of the visions that we've had in De La Tierra and with other partners in the region is to come to where we can have a regenerative or climate smart sort of regional label that's not necessarily a certification, but based on good science with scientists we've been working with out of Utah and other parts of the country, that is also kind of more in line with the sort of traditional land management stewardship practices of our area and not quite as tedious as the organic certification. So again, that's kind of in the, once we get past walking and into running, but I think that's a long-term goal that we'd all like to provide as a value-added opportunity for our community.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
What's the minimum weight you want to take on for a lamb coming in?
Okay, so you opened up a little other kind of words. I don't think the TCEDC is going to buy any species besides beef, because and again, maybe this is in the short term, but again, beef is what allows us to get to some volume and do some institutional type service. Unless you're talking about raising 1,000 lambs and creating a contract with us for, I mean, I'd say at the very least hundreds of lambs.
So I'm not, we might not be talking about the same thing. So I raise something like 20 or 30 lambs a year, and I get them processed at USDA processor, and then I sell it myself. So you had mentioned that you don't want to see cows coming in that are under 1,000 pounds. Would that apply to me bringing in lambs, or are you just going to take them?
So I need to clarify something there. When you're going through the custom product, you're using us to get your label on your meat, and you can do whatever you want. I would recommend you bring us a lamb to kill, you know, but you could. Theoretically, you could, or, you know.
That's very common around here in Eastern.
To do the lambs?
Small lambs.
No, I didn't know that. Like, how small are you talking? Like, how small are you talking? I mean, because there's lambs like a year, like even 6 months in, but then there's like, you know, newly born. Like, I mean, what are we talking about?
I'm new to the business. You know, my lambs they've been around somewhere between 40 and 70 pounds.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a pretty typical weight to butcher lamb. You know, not mutton. The mutton's a thing, y'all. We at Salazar Meats we stopped doing lamb because the USDA started this new labeling requirement that they did a physical examination on the lambs, and if they determine it's greater than a year old, you're forced to put mutton on it. And we really angered a few customers by having to call their stuff mutton. They were like, we're sure, but they didn't provide records. And that's one thing, if you're working with the USDA, they generally defer to your records. So if you just have the record, if there's you know, for beef, the big thing is, unless you're getting veal, and I actually am not, because I never really dealt, but veal's a thing. You'd have to learn what those regs are. But then, once it's just beef, 30 months is kind of a key age, because then it's SRM, specific risk material, and then you can't keep your T-bones anymore, because any of the matter associated with the spinal column in the beef cannot be used. So, but they will relent to your records. So if you take an animal to USDA processor and you show them your record that, hey, look, there's this tag number, blah, I know it's under 30 months, they'll relent and they'll believe you, and they'll let you keep your T-bones. And I think it's the same with the lambs. Like, I think, like, even if their inspection comes out, we think it's over a year, they're like, hell it is, I have my documentation, this is an 11-month-old lamb. Then they'll go with your documentation.
So 12 months is...
Well, after 12 months, it's mutton. And it's a little inspection they do, they like break its joint there, and then they see a certain calcification on it, and to determine it's over a year or not.
Thank you. This is maybe too sensitive a question, but I've got to ask it anyway. Do you have an idea about when you're going to be running the Matanza and picking up animals?
I've rehearsed my response to that question for months. We just, and look, it's because look, some hinting has been done in this regard for the last couple of years, right? And it's just, stuff comes up in this bureaucratic sphere that you don't even know what would come up. And the reason we don't want to give that date is because we don't want people to hold animals or plan on it and then be let down. So we're just going under the policy, it's done when it's done. You can bet we're going to be with trumpets on the ceiling as soon as we can have an animal come in, and we're going to want to fill up our schedule. But we're kind of pumping the brakes on the estimated time of opening.
Okay, and so this is just a question about, I guess, the mobile Matanza and farm kill. I like to tell my customers that my animal was eating grass till the moment it got a bullet in its head. So like zero suffering for the animal. They never knew what was going to hit them. But like, I don't know how that applies to have this animal with a USDA label on it.
That's a beautiful sentiment. I think that's a lot of the sentiment that is kind of behind the mobile culture, the mobile Matanza culture, is field harvest, and like they're just doing what they're doing. They don't even know. There's no gathering them up, because it's true. Even though in my system, I literally had animals there, like literally like right there. I mean, there's this little bit of herding them in, and like, hey, what's going on, So even like I kind of consider that the very high end of animal welfare within a USDA framework. But I think what you're talking about kind of gets to like the uber high end, fraction of 1% of animal welfare, which is awesome, which is great. But I think for that, you're going to probably be within a not for sale framework. You can kill animals like that. What it comes down to for the USDA is that it's killed humanely. You could kill it. You could do that kind of slaughter, that kind of field slaughter, and still have USDA. But if you're messing up, so essentially what it's requiring is sharpshooters. And I'm pretty sure to do that, you actually have to have a sharpshooter certification to do that. And then you can do that. But you have to find the system that can do that, deal with those logistics, which the only one I know around anywhere that really could would be the mobile unit.
So are you saying yes, probably, in a couple of years, whenever it happens, and you're actually running mobile Matanza, that I'll be able to do that? Have this truck come out and just pop it in the head, and I can have a USDA label on my field harvest?
Are you saying that you even want to do the kill yourself?
That's what I've been doing. Yeah, I just started this a couple of years ago. I'm just doing it all myself.
I'm happy to search down the official answer on that question, and I think it would be that you'd have to have a sharpshooter certification, and then you could do it as our, employee sort of, But I think that's probably a workable thing. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Could you speak to, I know you guys are planning on going with temple branded standards. Could you talk about like what that level of humane treatment is and the value of it?
Well, temple branded, anyone here not know temple branded? Temple branded? So animal rights, like guru, absolute expert, autistic woman who is probably part of like what creates this level of genius at understanding animal experience. And really it comes down to us using her design, which she's very, she's got all these books with the different designs, so we find the one that roughly fits our scenario. And really what it amounts to is creating the environment to where the animal is going to very naturally move it to where it wants to go. And it's going to be like sheeting, some kind of sheeting over everything. Like it's about seeing maybe like one point of pressure from one person or something, and not like the scene of semis and everybody outside. So you kind of have this sheeting that covers the corralling. And then they kind of use this serpentine idea. So the animal thinks it's like actually, because what the animal wants to do, especially if it starts getting scared, is it wants to try to go back, but it'll just take advantage of that movement. So you kind of have this serpentine thing. It keeps thinking it's going someplace safe and it stays calm. And then the slaughter, she endorses captive bolt stunning, and that's, I think, the method of slaughter to use. There are very exotic methods of stunning and killing the animals these days, but in the experience I've had, that the captive bolt works very well as long as you have the individual is very well trained, and or you have really good restraint. And in my facility, what that was is, it was me, and then I was very well trained. It was, we didn't have great restraint, because that's very expensive. I did my whole USDA thing for the 15 years on a shoestring budget. And to get, you know, the tens of thousands of dollars of tech in place that would have done that well, I never really had the budget for that. So you just have to be really good at killing it. And it works fine, but yeah, you have to have a skilled tech. Other USDA facilities have run into problems with this, having the kill tech not be very good, and you get stopped. The USDA throws the flag, and you stop, and you have to call the district office, explain what happened, and you have to, it's called corrective actions. You have to explain how for sure that won't happen again. And they just hold your line, they kill your line. So it's something that puts a lot of pressure on the process. You take it very seriously. Yes, yes.
Yeah, my question is, when this is fully built out, what is your goal for amount of cattle that can be harvested?
We're a little bit, so we know for sure that, because part of this is, again, we have this 2.5 acres, we have this wastewater situation, we have so many gallons of flow that we can create through this, and we know for sure that we're going to be able to do at least 2 of the hanging coolers, so that means 100 beef equivalent, and we might be able to do a third. So we might be able to get this to where we have, theoretically, at any given point, the capacity to hang 150 beef, which again, multiply that by 2 for pigs, so 300, and then by 3 or 4 for the smalls. So that's the rough capacity.
What about,
and that would be like per week. I think you would kind of think about that as per week. If we had a lot of animals that required aging, it kind of starts bringing that number down because the animals that are aging are holding that space.
what about the cold storage? You talked about cold storage for curing the animal, but what about like the product after it's purveyed?
The freezing?
Yeah.
It's a big freezer. It's a big freezer, and I think the way a lot of these contracts that we're gonna have, I'm hoping we can even develop a lot of fresh market. So like I'm saying, we're gonna aggregate these beef, put them into ground beef, and I'm really hoping we can get clients that will accept that fresh even. So then it's out the door, it's not even tying up our freezer space, and then for clients like the custom processing clients, that they're the ones who are holding more of the space inside that freezer. So it's 20 by 30, and then 12 feet tall, and you're gonna have like multiple tier for like palletization on it. So it's gonna be able to hold quite a bit of.
Kind of for like direct marketing?
Yeah, so like for instance, I think you're kind of saying like, so I could butcher 4 beef with you guys, but then I could go pick up half, deliver it, and then come pick up my other half some other day and deliver it. Yeah, to the extent that we can do that, we're gonna want to do that. Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Because I'm going to butt in now.
Yes, sir.
So if we send livestock to you and then you process it, put whatever stickers that you can put on it, and then we take the meat back, are we able to put is it illegal for us to put another sticker on it?
That's a great question. So anything that has anything to do with like your label or your graphics, your design, you can do whatever you want in that regard. But you can't do any claims, or you couldn't do a USDA.
We couldn't say organic practices.
No. So, but this is an
on our label.
No.
Right.
No. But this is what you can do at your. Are you thinking of farmers market? Is that what you're thinking, or where are you thinking of selling it?
Farmers market, direct clients, whatever,
Yeah, so I mean, here's the little loophole on your website. You can talk about that all you want. They're at the point of sale, when you got your little table like this, you can do that all you want. But on that package you get from us and our plan, you can't. Again, you could put a little, I don't know, whatever, like graphic, but it can't. If it starts trying to get to claims, then that's where you're going to end up in a problem legally.
Anybody else? We want to make sure we've gotten to everybody's concerns. I mean, it's a little bit of time that we've had to really bring you up to speed to where we've been, but I think I want to elaborate a little bit more on what the beauty of TCEDC is and what the essence of the project is going to be. Is the key is nonprofit, okay? The key is that we're going to be able to bring additional components to the program because we are nonprofit. So when we talk about additional refrigeration being needed, then we can write a grant specifically for the need of the Native communities, of the ranching communities, of the school needs that we might be able to fulfill within the educational districts, being able to do mentorships, for cut and wrap, and not only the ranching side of things. Those are the education components that we are all about. So being able to tap into projects. I know right now we're navigating in very strange times, and every day something else comes up and things are changing daily. We are hoping to get to a place where, ranching, farming is at the foot of everything, so what we need, the food that needs to be produced for our community, for our state, for our nation, is at the key of everything. So funding for USDA and the advocating that we do for funding for USDA has to continue. That's the beauty with, the partnerships that we have, specifically with Jillian, and what she's able to do through legislative sessions. The state inspection that she talks about and being able to utilize state inspection, that passed here within New Mexico, and that we have programs like New Mexico Grown, that the state really puts into play, really changes the dynamics for us as a nonprofit, because we are able to step in and have USDA and all of the USDA regulation. State inspection isn't looking at skipping any steps or doing anything differently. They're enforcing, okay? One of the things that USDA really hinders on is the ability of inspectors and the amount of inspectors we have within the state. And so state inspection will bring to the table more inspection and maybe better calendar dates and better times for us to be able to process, so that we have the ability to then say, okay, we're going to need a USDA refrigeration and we're going to need state inspection refrigeration. Well, then let's look at what the nonprofit needs to bring to the table to be able to make those things happen, okay? Biggest thing I want to elaborate on is the collaboration and the support of our community, okay? When we stand together, great things can happen. When we support each other, great things can happen. We are here because this is where we ended up. Whether we were born and raised here or we came from wherever we came, this is what we call home now. This is where we want to make sure that we're supporting the efforts that are happening on the ground, okay? This is where we need to say, you know what, I came here because I love and respect this place. I'm not here to change it. I'm not here to say you're doing things wrong. I'm here to say, why are things being done the way they are done? Why are we supporting them? If there's things that need to be said, absolutely. Let's bring them to the table and let's agree to disagree. And let's move ourselves forward. Composting was looked at. So as a nonprofit, and with these relationships that I spoke about with private and public, with our governmental entities, that the county is thinking of a composting site, and TCEDC is doing research, and actually at the table with the state about what we like to call the dead cow project. I don't know how fitting that is, but it explains the method. Utilize the entire cow. Everything from that cow, needs to be utilized. And so the Economic Development Department through the state is very interested in small enterprise that can be developed from these, dead cow components. And so being able to thrust those forwards is very important. Bone broth, and if you're looking at bone broth, if you take your bones and you do your bones, we have the kitchen. We have the Taos Kitchen. We've had 3 clients out of the Taos Kitchen who do produce bone broth, okay? They have to be USDA inspected, correct? Yeah, to make bone broth for sale. So this is the expert on the meat side. I'm the expert on the food processing. And so the Environment Department basically states that it's got to be USDA inspected bones. It can't be wild game. So we had people, we did have a ranch here that was farm-raised elk, and those farm-raised elk would have been approved, and so that could happen. So the state inspection basically comes into our facility and regulates, how you are manufacturing and processing these food products. So we do have the kitchen to kind of enhance, the processing side. tallow, we have one of our clients, a rancher that was interested in tallow. Again, we need USDA inspection to be able to happen, even in the kitchen. And so when we had tamale making operation in the kitchen, the percentage of meat that goes into those tamales, we need a USDA inspector anyway, so that we have a USDA inspector on site, and that we can then bring a USDA inspector for the processing side in the kitchen. We have to have multiple meat for it, not just one tamale making operation or one bowl broth. But we bring the needs to the table and we try and meet those needs, through the power that the community and the state can bring to, because again, that is what nonprofit is. Nonprofit is community. Custom. So we're going to have a lot of custom processing within our community. We're going to have people come and have needs, about vaccination and stuff. Those are a culture. The mission for TCEDC is to support, the food, land, water, and the cultures of the people of northern New Mexico. So that those cultures are being respected. We will do the research. Again, that comes from the nonprofit side, We're able to then talk to our outreach team and say, what? Let's research. What is it that we need to do to make sure that we are being respectful of the culture within our community? That's our pueblos and the field harvests. That's why the mobile Matanza does what it does. It goes out into the pueblo and does the humane slaughter on site. If they have a ceremony that needs to be performed, then USDA is accepting of that because they are on federal lands. And so all of those things are the possibilities and the things that are done, through a nonprofit and through what is happening at TCEDC. So I think that, the on-the-ground facility is going to maximize our capacity. We are starting because we have phased funding. So we got so much funding to get us this far. We need funding to get us to the next phase, the third and fourth phase. Fourth phase, I'm saying, and Lucas is probably going to look at me like you're crazy, is value added. We're talking fourth phase there. We haven't even gone through phase 1 here. We need to move into phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Like he said, we need to learn how to walk before we can run. And so that there is a possibility. We're not giving a date as to when we're done, because we want to make sure that we are taking the time necessary to ensure that the environmental aspects of this facility are going to be looked at. The use of the water is very important to us in this area. So we want to ensure that the water that has been utilized for the processing of each carcass, that's important to us. Lucas mentioned that he has animals because, we have herd animals, that they're not out there by themselves, thinking I'm abandoned, I'm the next one, look, my sister just got shot. Herd, that he has animals to ensure that there is, the safeguarding of the animal is important. And so, mobile versus on the ground. We're starting mobile, and the mobile is going to stick around for the existence of the project. There are going to be some requirements for the mobile though. There is going to be travel fees, for the mobile to go out. It's a semi, guys. It probably gets 1 mile for half a gallon. And so there's going to be a cost to go out. There's a capacity maximum that needs to be looked at as well. We need to fill that rig wherever it goes. We need to fill the rig. There's USDA requirements that need to be looked at so that there's running water at these facilities, that there's electricity, and that there's a corralling, and there's a head chute. There are certain requirements that are going to have to be met when we do go out there. Not that it's not available, but there are going to be certain requirements for those things to happen. I want to make sure that you guys know that we are here to answer questions. We are here to answer to the community. Whatever we get in TCEDC and whatever funding we've received thus far is public funds, So we do owe people explanations, okay? We allow the ability and a mechanism for that by sending you guys our newsletters, letting you know what we're up through our newsletters every month. There's contact information for all of us. We have our outreach people that are out there all the time, making sure that you guys' needs are met. You guys want to meet with us? Call us. Let's set something up. I want to ensure that, the TCEDC team is here, to ensure that we are utilizing the funds that we are given in the correct manner, that we are making strides and making forward. When I took over TCEDC 5 years ago, I was handed over an account with $100 in it. Now we have 105, but we have 11 team members. You know, we've brought over, at this point, $6 million into the community in infrastructure and educational programs for the community. So we're getting there, okay? We're still in developmental stages, and then we're still in beginner stages, and we still need a lot more to do, absolutely. You know, but we're here to work out. It takes elbow grease, and by golly, you know, we've got it. So I want to thank you guys for your time. I want to ensure you guys that we're here to answer any questions, that we're here to move us on to the next step. We appreciate your support. The petition that I talked to you guys about, which Michaela has, do you want to hand her the microphone so she can read specifically what it says? Because I don't want to misquote anything. But we need to garnish support for funding requests that we are looking to make.
Yeah, so essentially for fiscal year 2026, TCEDC is putting in a request for about $500,000 for Senator Hendricks, Senator Hahn, and Representative Ledger Fernandez. So we appreciate you all taking the time to sign this petition, and thank you so much, Mrs.
So it's basically for what is called as congressionally directed spending. Congressionally directed spending comes from our senators. So that's Heinrich, that's Teresa Ledger, and that's Ben Ray Lujan. And what they ask for are, you know, petitions, you know, and people to sign petitions, letters of support. And so though that request is due here soon, so if any of you are interested in signing that, you know, we really, you know, would you know, request that you would. You know, that is going to thrust us into the next level and possibly get funding. This year's funding for congressionally directed spending was taken. So it was snatched. It was taken back by the executive orders that have been happening here lately. So that congressionally directed spending for 2025 is gone. So we're going to have to work on 2026.
How much funding was that?
For us, it was $850,000.
Lauren says something? Yeah, I just wanted to. I just wanted to know if there's been any issues with what's going on in Washington with grant applications and stuff that did you have any grants through there that got canceled or just frozen?
We personally, with the TCEDC, do not, you know, but we only have 2 federal grants. You know, there are our partners though who are suffering, you know, who have been taken, you know, funds have been taken from a lot of our partners. I think where it's put us is basically in awareness of the self-sufficiency that we need to create as well. You know, for TCEDC specifically, the creation of the meat processing facility is a for-profit to feed into our nonprofit. You know, we need to start depending on ourselves. That is what we look for our community in itself as well, so that we don't see the shortages that we saw, you know, through COVID pandemic, you know, and the empty grocery shelves that we saw. We need to create that self-sufficiency, you know, within our communities, and for us in TCEDC, and for the partners at the table, because TCEDC is a community. TCEDC isn't one entity. De la Tierra, you know, is 4 entities. Again, it's Agricultura de Taos, Taos Valley Acequia Association, Taos Land Trust, and TCEDC. You know, those are the 4 partners at the table right now. Between those 4, you know, whatever happens to one happens to another, you know, so we need to ensure that that solidarity exists within our community, period. So yes, we personally don't, only because our funding is 2501, and 2501 is USDA funds that were appropriated, you know, through a settlement, and so we were able to hold on to those. The other grant we have is the USDA Beginner Farmers and Ranchers Grant, which hasn't been touched yet. You know, it would create a ripple effect, you know, not only for TCEDC, our partners. For TCEDC personally, it would mean that we have 11, you know, staff members that would basically be out of a job immediately. We have 13 businesses that operate out of the food center, which would have a ripple effect. That themselves can be, you know, a mom and pop shop, mom, dad, and maybe 2 kids, you know, so the ripple effect that could be seen through something like this. So at any point in time that you guys are able to advocate and to do anything, you know, to be able to bring these things forward and in support of your community, it is greatly appreciated through the nonprofit sector here. I can't recall the number, but we are one of the counties with the greatest number of nonprofits. You know, and there's nonprofits for every and anything. But let's remind ourselves, economic development and what we're all about with farming and ranching, it is crucial. Without farming and ranching, without water, without taking care of our land, there won't be any arts. There won't be any music. You know, so we need to face the music, guys. And thank you again for all your support. You know, we welcome you in all of these events. We thank you for your participation and your input, and we're here to thrust forward. Thank you for your time, and we appreciate